This is a regional conference, so we have folks coming into this session from all around the Bay Area. We want to welcome you on behalf of the Teach for the Bay conference team. We are excited about today's session that really launches us into 2 days of incredible workshops, learning, and inspiration. So thank you for being here and taking the time to join us this morning.
It's fun to see everybody's names in the, I'm not exactly sure what's happening with my screen. Somebody is actually sharing. I think I have participant sharing on. So try not to share your screen if you can help it. Because we're going to have, I'm going to share my screen and then Allyson, the keynote, is going to share her screen. I'm going to write someone a little note.
And when we get started, if everyone could mute, that's helpful. We have a lot of background sounds.
I have everybody automatically muted when they come in, so, but all right, so what time is it?
I think time to start.
Yeah, it's time to start. So welcome everybody. We wanted to start with a short reading that inspired the title for our conference, which we can attribute to Jerica's amazing brain. So we are going to read the first part of this Hopi Elder Prophecy from June 8th, 2000. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Let's see. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relationship? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for your leader. We'll read the second part tomorrow in the plenary. So welcome to our keynote. Oh, go ahead, Jerica.
I was just going to say, so welcome everyone to our keynote address for Teach for the Bay number 3. This is our 3rd year we've been offering this conference, and we're excited to be here with you this morning. My name is Herika Coffey, and I'm proud to be a classroom teacher in Oakland Unified School District. I'm also proud to be on the faculty at City College of San Francisco in the teacher prep program, and colleague of Tracy, Burt, and Kathleen White, who are really the sort of visionaries and masterminds behind Teach for the Bay. And so before I go into a little background about why we decided to entitle our conference, We Are the Ones We Have Been Waiting For, and thank you, Tracy, for that beautiful reading, that call to action of sorts. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the efforts and energy and love that Tracy Burt, our conference coordinator, puts into making this conference happen and has for the last 2 years. Tracy is an incredible mentor and inspiration to many of us working in the field. And so thank you, Tracy, for all your efforts to make this happen as conference coordinator. And we'll acknowledge a lot of other entities and organizations that are also involved. But wanted to begin by just sharing some acknowledgement for Tracy Burt, as well as Kathleen White, for your vision. And so when we were thinking about a conference title that could ground us in a sense of purpose for this work, We Are the Ones We Have Been Waiting For made sense for a few different reasons. And so just to acknowledge where this beautiful piece of wisdom comes from. It comes from the Hopi people, which are Native people in northeastern Arizona. And they've been able to maintain their language, their culture, and their religion despite the effects of colonialism. And this wisdom is important for us in our work in education, because despite the innumerable challenges that we face in our schools today, and there are many of which are in our control to change and many are not. And despite these challenges, the reality is that there are children and youth and families that need us They need us to continue to create schools and classrooms that are places of joy, affirmation, and wonder. They need us to create spaces where they can find respite from the social, political, and economic challenges of our time. And most importantly, as many speakers and workshops will address over the next 2 days, we need to create schools and classrooms that are places where children and youth can heal. And so we hope that today and tomorrow, through the workshops and panels that you attend, that you feel inspired to continue working in the field of education. We believe in the pipeline work and strengthening pipelines out of the community colleges and into our public school classrooms. And so we hope that you move forward with this idea that you are the one we have been waiting for.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jerica. I want to say, before I turn it over to Kathy, I just want to say that this is a team effort, and I want to thank Jerica and Kathy and Annie and our designer, Leah Martinez, and Andrea Medina, who coordinated our social media, and everybody from all these different colleges who has put their heart and soul into the vocation of teaching and of supporting and cultivating fierce and healthy and healing educators. And there's so many people that it's so easy to get discouraged. And it's so important for us to remember how many of us are in this work and how much heart there is and how much commitment we have. So I really thank you for being here. And I really thank everybody, all the presenters and everybody who helped with outreach, all the teachers who offer extra credit or offer a module in their class, and all these participants, all of you who have shown up today to be here with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm a proud retired teacher from City College of San Francisco, and I'm still working on projects. And becoming a teacher was a great decision. I have no regrets. And I hope some of you that are here today follow that pathway. So I just wanted to thank our supporters in the San Francisco Bay region. The BACCC is actually funding our work to help our students consider teaching in all types of settings. So thank you so much for the strong workforce funding that supports our sector. And thank you to all the partner colleges that are providing workshops, leadership, and that are helping community college and high school students and students who have transferred just become future educators. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. We're going to take a moment to honor the land, the earth, and the indigenous people on whose land we stand. The land that makes up the 9-county San Francisco Bay Area has been home to diverse groups of indigenous peoples with unique cultures and deeply rooted relationships to the land for over 10,000 years. We honor their connection to the land, the deep respect they hold for this region, and that we stand on unceded territory. And what that means is that the territory that was taken from indigenous people is territory that now many of us might own or live on, and that we want to acknowledge that truth.
Okay, I'm so excited to introduce our keynote speaker. It really is an honor because this scholar has kept me inspired and is one of the people who I could attribute to keeping me in the classroom, excited about doing the work for the long haul. So we are excited to be having Dr. Tintiangco-Cubales here with us today to share her wisdom and her words of inspiration. Dr. Tintiangco-Cubales was born and raised on land stewarded by the Ohlone people with parents who were immigrants from Batangas and Tarlac in the Philippines. Dr. Tintiangco-Cubales is an award-winning professor in the College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State University. Since 2000, she's been teaching in Asian American Studies department with a focus on Filipinx studies. She's also an affiliated faculty member in the Educational Leadership doctoral program there. She has mentored hundreds of critical master's and doctoral students who are now teaching and working in schools, colleges, and community organizations here and across the nation. She's also the co-founder and director of Community Responsive Education, or CRE, a firm that supports youth wellness through research and the development of responsive, equitable, and justice-driven educators. She is currently providing direct support to schools, districts, counties, and organizations in San Francisco, Daly City, Oakland, where I teach also, Santa Clara, New York, and Baltimore. Her most recent endeavor with CRE is the development of a community responsive wellness index that will be used in schools across the nation. In 2001, she founded the Pinay Education Partnerships, or PEP, as it's known, a barangay that focuses on providing schools with ethnic studies courses and curriculum, developing radical educators, and creating resources for Filipinx communities and similarly marginalized people. She's worked with several school districts throughout the nation, including San Francisco Unified, to co-develop ethnic studies, social justice, and Filipino language curriculum. She's the author of 4 books of curriculum and numerous articles focused on the applications of critical pedagogy, ethnic studies curriculum, mother scholarship, and Pinayism. Allyson coined Pinayism in 1995 and has stayed committed to developing Pinay sisterhood, and she currently sits on the board of Pinay. She also prides herself in being a cheerleader who supports many people to find their sacred purpose so that they can contribute to community actualization. Allyson is also currently in the Immersion DIWA program, learning to use decolonial medicine to support her process towards self-love. And so with that, Dr. Tintiangco-Cubales, we turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my honor, Erika and Tracy and Kathleen. Thank you so much for inviting me. Can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure. Okay. Thank you for that, Erika. I wasn't sure which bio you were going to read, and I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting to see what people think about me, right? And so I just want to say thank you, for acknowledging these different things about my life. Today, I'm going to take us on a road a little bit to talk about different things in my life, which I've been asked to talk about, that are not in the bio. Yeah, some things are connected, but not in the bio. So let me make sure I can share my screen. I think you have to stop sharing that screen. I could do. There we go. Okay, here we go. That's me. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. My student drew that and did these multiple drawings for me, so I'm really excited to share them with you. And the title today is Why I Needed Ethnic Studies in Kindergarten. And the 3 sort of points I'm going to try to cover today is love, learning, and legacy. And I'm going to take us on a more interactive journey. This is not a regular keynote, so I'm going to need you all to be ready to chime in, to go into the chat, maybe sometimes unmute. Just depends on how this conversation goes. So I'm hoping you all are okay with that. We're going to try to make this a little less about me just telling you things. Yeah, so we'll try as we go. So before I begin, I would like to do my own land acknowledgement. I know that you've already done one, which I think is really important at the beginning of any event, but I wanted to show you some images here. I am specifically on unceded Ohlone land here in the East Bay. I'm in Fremont right now. In the middle there, you will see that my family is actually from a land where they grew calamansi and lanzones, which is related to what Jerica described as Tarlac and Batangas. And then that's me in front of my big giant redwood tree in my backyard in Oakland. And so I just wanted to share with you the different pieces of the ways in which I see my relationship to the land. Although I'm here on Ohlone land, I do think that it's my responsibility not only to acknowledge it verbally, but also to participate in loving it and tending to it. And that's something I'm still learning. I'm not 100% great at. And so I'm still learning how to really be with the land. So I wanted to acknowledge the land that I'm on. Along with acknowledging the land, before I begin my talk, I also want to share my altar with you. One of my altars that I that I have built over the years. And on that altar, I oftentimes recognize my ancestors or acknowledge ancestors in relation to the land and the world. I'm going to acknowledge a few ancestors today that are very, very integral to my talk. And I'll start by acknowledging these two men. So if anybody here has ever seen me talk, which I'm not sure how many of you, I see some friends in the participant pool. These are not two people that I always recognize. And there's a specific reason why I'm recognizing these two individuals who have passed away in the last 5 years. Eric, the one on the left, passed away much longer ago. He passed away from a heart attack, very young, at 42 years old. And then Ed passed away last year from cancer. And I want to acknowledge these two amazing Filipino men in my life. And they were the two men who sat in my first ethnic studies class with me on both sides. We got in a lot of trouble, these two. So I just want to acknowledge that they are more than angels to me. They are friends who I consistently try to communicate with when I'm struggling around things like ethnic studies. When I've been attacked around ethnic studies, I kind of look at the two dudes on my side and go, you know what? I'm protected. Yeah. And so I want to bring them into the space today. I also want to bring in Dr. Don Buhulano Mabalon, who was my comadre. We went to UCLA together, and we fought for ethnic studies at every level, and we taught at San Francisco State together. And she was in history and I was in ethnic studies. And she will be visiting our dialogue today in one of the slides, because she left a legacy when she passed in 2018. And I was heartbroken when she passed, but at this point, after several years, I realized that she's not really gone, that she's left a lot for us to live on. So you'll notice here, I wrote something. This is a quote from Weller, and it says, "Ancestral grief is what we carry in our bodies from sorrows experienced by our ancestors. Tending to this undigested grief of ancestors not only frees us to live our own lives, but also eases ancestral suffering in the other world." And so I want to talk about ancestral grief because it's important to know that I grieve my friends, but I also still hold the grief that they hold. And it's something that over generations, even as someone who may, like I have ancestors from the Philippines, I may not have experienced what they've experienced, but I hold their experiences in my body. Herika mentioned the concept of colonization or colonialism, and that I hold in my body as well as ancestral grief. So, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started with some interaction. And so I'm gonna ask all of you to go into your bags, or your desk or wherever you're at right now. And I want you to find one thing, and I'm only gonna give you 30 seconds to do this, so it has to be pretty quick. I want you to find one thing that represents your cultural baggage or your culture, right? So it could be anything. And I'm opening up the door, to just say anything cultural, right? And that can mean anything. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and then I'm going to ask you all to unmute your faces or show your faces. And then we're going to see what y'all come up with, okay? Let's see what you got. Could be anything. Okay. We got some stuff. Okay. I see. If you have the capacity to unshare your screen, how do you say this? Put on your video or share your video. That would be really helpful. I want to see what we get. Let's see what we get. Oh, we got a whole bag. Melissa's got a whole bag of stuff. Okay. Leah, I know you got something good back there. Are you unmuted? I'm excited to see what you got. All right. sometimes when you have that screen share, that means that blurry background, it's really hard to see, but like, I think I see something with some characters, Denise. Oh, okay, I see the matches. I see the matches. Cool.
Fortune sticks. Fortune sticks.
Very cool. Okay. All right. Monica, is that a cloth? I see something beautiful. Oh, sorry, Monica. Is that correct? I said that better, right? That second time. I practiced that one. Okay. Let's see what else. Okay. I see a journal, Isaac. Or no, I see a card with a note.
This is a birthday card. My mom's dad wrote me this birthday card.
I love that, Isaac.
Thank you.
All right. Desiree, I'm trying to understand.
It's a tree. It's an African tree.
It's beautiful. I really love that. So I want to acknowledge that it could be anything, yeah. Let's not put them down yet. I think if we can get Tracy or Herika to take a screenshot of us with our items, that would be really cool. I'm gonna pull up this. This is calamansi. Okay, we got some people in the room showing. Let's get as many people showing. There we go. Leticia, is that your name? Thank you for showing.
Okay, we ready for a screenshot?
Okay.
3, 2.
All right, wait. I think people are still coming on.
Okay, still coming on.
Just give them a second. Almost. Okay, ready, set, smile.
Got it.
Okay, so I know that we all didn't get a chance, but if you can just write what you held up in the chat, just write the word or words that represent what it is. You don't have to explain it, because that's the other thing is I'm not trying to ask you to explain what culture is. I want you to just understand that you have it. You have it in you. You have something. Yeah. So put it in the chat. Let's see what y'all came up with. All right. Beautiful things. Absolutely. These items are important to acknowledge as part of our cultural baggage. And I'm going to use that word in a funny way, right? This idea of baggage. Oh, I'm so, my condolences, Celeste. Yeah. Okay. Oftentimes our items are attached to people. Yeah. They are oftentimes attached to practices. And so I want to just acknowledge that all of us have culture, even if in fact, like that we don't actually see it right in front of us, or we don't think we do. We all participate in culture. I want to acknowledge that we all have baggage. Some of us have named this a hindrance, and others have described it as wealth. Our baggage, which sometimes in Tagalog and in Spanish, they call it carga. It's like this load we carry. Yeah. I want to talk about this as sort of a metaphor throughout this presentation. Also, that I will be packing, unpacking, and repacking on this journey of this presentation. And I hope that that's okay. It's kind of an exposure tour. And we're going to talk about like the ways in which these items that I'm going to be showing us tell story. And connect us to people and practices and places. Yeah. Okay. Do you see my slide deck or do you see my notes deck? I just want to make sure.
We see your slide deck. We don't see the notes.
We see your slide deck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to keep going. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to do this thing. All right. So in the chat, you're going to write a story about me. This is always uncomfortable, but I'm going to ask you to do it. And I only want you to write 7 words. I don't want you to write a whole novel, which I oftentimes ask my students to do, and they write these really long chats. I want you to try to write my story that's not in my bio that Herika mentioned, based on a few items. Okay, and I'm going to show you those items. And am I spotlighted? Let me spotlight myself so you can see me. Okay. So I'm going to show some items. Are we ready for this? Okay, cool. So earlier I have calamansi. I'm sorry. I have calamansi here, which you can see. This is one item. This goes with this item. And this item is a lanzones. This is actually very rare. It's very rare. My mom was able to find it. And what's so beautiful about lanzones is when you open it up, it actually is very closely related to a citrus, but it doesn't taste like citrus. It's like a grape and a citrus together. You see that? And it's in segments. Okay. So that's item number one, is the calamansi and lanzones. Item number two is this book. Erika likes this book. We're different and we're the same. And then at the bottom it says, and we're all wonderful. And it's a Sesame Street book. Yeah, you often find this book in classrooms, like, like in the early grades, even TK, like in kindergarten, this book shows up a lot. Okay, so we got a book, right? And then I got another book. This is an encyclopedia. And it's number 19, and it's the P's. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you to write something in the chat. Write a 7-word bio of me. I feel like so self-centered saying that. Write a bio about me based on those 3 items. Okay. So just so it's clear what those 3 items are, I'm going to put it on this slide so you can see it. Okay. So let's see what y'all come up with. Let's see. Okay. It does look like a lychee, Michael, but it isn't. It's segmented, unlike a lychee that's not segmented. Okay. Okay, let's try to write it in a sentence. An Indigenous educator who is deeply connected to land and humanity. I'm hoping one day, I'm still working at that. A mujer who knows where she comes from and where she is going. I'm going to quote you on that. Mother taught culture and love of self. Ooh. Strong, culturally proud, educated woman. Thank you. Few more. Let's keep going here. Someone who did something in the past and decides to do new things in the future. Okay, okay. Can someone spell the words about the fruits? I'm going to show you in just a second, Anna. Don't worry, I'll get to the fruits. Educational activist that prides herself on where she came from. And okay. Cecilia said, from a Philippine family background who has a love of education and different cultural backgrounds. Maybe. A multi-layered woman who joins, oops, it's going fast now, joins community to support legacy, food lover, promoting anti-bias education and learning, an educator who knows where she's from and also where she plans to go. Ancestral things, people, places, a good thing to share in the photos. Okay. All right. You think very highly of me. This is beautiful. But I'm going to kind of break down some of these items, yeah, because I think actually, one, it's hard to write a bio in 7 words, but I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for making me feel good with all these beautiful comments. I'm going to use these 3 items as a way to talk about my experience. And Erika, when she invited me, really wanted me to talk about my community college experience and my relationship to ethnic studies, and I'll infuse that. But I really like the quote or the Hopi teaching, we are the ones we have been waiting for. I think that's really important. And then I hope that resonates with you throughout this presentation. And then I want to add something to that. My healer that I work with, her name is Janet Coe, and she does this entire Diwa immersion program. Diwa means spirit. And she says we have the medicine for us to heal. We have it in us. And in Chinese medicine, that actually is something very, very important to acknowledge, that we already have it in us. And it's taking me a really long time to believe that. And so I just want to acknowledge that all of these items are going to be kind of I'm going to talk through those concepts throughout these. Okay, so we'll start off with a little bit of Tagalog lesson. So I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, but I'm going to say isa, dalawa, tatlo. I try to use every moment to teach a little bit here and there, a little something that maybe you do or do not know. But in Tagalog, the number 1 is isa, dalawa is number 2, and tatlo is number 3. So I'm going to start off with isa. Okay, and I'm going to talk about my past in relation to this. So Anna asked earlier, how do you spell the names of these two fruits? They're both fruits. Lanzones and calamansi. Okay, yeah, we got to always put those language lessons in there just to make sure, right? So that's lanzones and calamansi. Actually, my nickname was Allysones growing up when I would go visit the Philippines. They would call me lanzones. So if you pick a lanzones too early, it's sour and bitter. Yeah. So it's really good, really important to pick a lanzones when it's ripe. Calamansi, you can pick almost at any time once it fruits, but if you pick it too late, it's going to be a smushy thing that is too sweet. So that's really interesting about these two fruits. I will also say that I really want to acknowledge that I had no appreciation for this. I had no appreciation for the calamansi and the lanzones, although I loved eating them and it was part of what we used. The lanzones is really hard to find in the United States, but you can find it now in some Asian stores. The calamansi, it grew in my mother's background in abundance, but I had no appreciation for it, which, to be quite honest, meant that I had no appreciation for myself. And so I want to acknowledge that I have a relationship to these two things, not just as this metaphor, but to me, those things really meant that I could not have appreciation for myself. And a lot of that lack of learning about valuing who I am and my relationship to lanzones and calamansi, which also means my relationship to my family and my community, a lot of that feeling like I cannot appreciate that came from school. Because in school, these things were not valued. They were not brought up. I didn't see myself in school. My teachers didn't really value my family in school. They didn't value necessarily my story, right? So I want to acknowledge that that's what when I put that in front of you all as one of my items or a symbol for my past, I really wanted to acknowledge how beautiful these fruits are. I literally just picked them yesterday, by the way. This is not a stock photo. Like, they're so beautiful, and the smell and the taste is it's so enriching. And I see both of them as elements that can heal us or heal myself. So, well, how do we love ourselves again? Like, we go into school and we're told these things aren't important. Why are you talking about calamansi and lanzones? Like, you need to not be talking about that, like, eat your apple and orange, right? And whatever's offered in the lunchroom. Yeah. So I got really bitter and angry growing up. And so I know I showed that cute little picture at the beginning on my first slide. This is what I started to look like. Very, very angry, and really hated school, hated, being Filipina, didn't really appreciate my family and didn't appreciate all the things that came with my quote unquote culture. Okay. We grew up here. Okay. This is actually, I didn't grow up here. This is where I was born, and this is Alameda, California. So I'm going to talk a little bit about life and how all of this shifts because of education. So here I am. Yeah, I think she's she's so cute. Look at her. Okay. So then my grandparents did not get to go to school, both sides. So I want to acknowledge that, right? And I say schools specifically, and I don't use the word education here because they were educated in so many different ways, but they didn't get to go to school. My parents immigrated from the Philippines, as mentioned earlier. My mom was a bookkeeper at Oakland Scavenger Company, which is the garbage company before it was bought out. Some of you might know because you live maybe in the East Bay, that is no longer Oakland Scavenger, but she worked there for a very long time. And then my mom was able to get a lot of my uncle's jobs there as garbage men and my aunties as clerks. And so it's a really interesting process. My mom was also able to help all of her family members on her side immigrate to the United States. She was literally the first one here. My dad didn't have an education and he became a janitor at Kaiser, started in Oakland Kaiser and then moved in to Hayward and then Fremont. And so that's the story. These are my peoples, right? I did not appreciate this story. I never wanted to tell anyone that my dad was a janitor. I didn't want to tell anyone that my mom worked at the garbage company. I was embarrassed growing up. I had no idea the kind of sacrifices they had to make to ensure that we could eat, that we could survive, that we had a roof over our heads, because those things weren't valued in school. I mean, and I felt this way all the way up until college, so I wanted to acknowledge that this was a very painful process of denial, right? And school did not allow me to really celebrate the kind of things that my family experienced. And those are some of the reasons why I became an educator. I will talk a little bit about why they were in this situation, right? And why we ended up coming to the United States. Colonization, some of you might already know this, but I'll just state it, that is a process by which a nation occupies and settles in territory belonging to another people. In this case, you will see below Spanish rule, American rule, Japanese occupation. At some point, they said that Philippines were ruling themselves, but I always question that because they had the American bases in the Philippines and actually still have them. And so are we really, really independent? That last line on the definition of colonialism says, it's really about using force to enforce that my way is better than your way. And so Spanish, American, Japanese all seemed better than being Filipino. Because that was what was taught in education in the Philippines. And then those ideas were brought to America or the United States. I don't know if we're that united, but here, brought here thinking that this place saved our lives. But in reality, it destroyed and tried to erase cultures in the Philippines. Yeah, I did not know this. I didn't know any of this. And so I just want to acknowledge that, like, if this is new information for you, it's okay, like we're all learning. But I want to also acknowledge that I also learned alongside understanding colonization and then colonialism that there was always resistance. There was always resistance. So we come from a culture also of resistance, not just accepting colonialism. So we resisted colonization in war, but quite literally. Colonialism, imperialism, all in the Philippines. And we continue to do that now. Renato Consentino, one of my favorite authors, who I feel like I don't quote enough. He wrote a book called Miseducation Filipino, and he said the most effective means of subjugating the people is to capture their minds. Imagine that. Yeah, it's not about military victory, right? He says military victory is not necessarily the way to signify conquest. Education, I'm going to say the word schooling. I'm going to replace the word schooling there. Schooling, therefore, serves as a weapon in the wars of colonial conquest. Yeah. So I want to just pause to say that, we really want to create, and I think one of the themes here is really to create an education that allows young people to thrive, to be well. But if we're doing that within the colonial context, we're actually just teaching young people how to assimilate. And that doesn't necessarily celebrate who they are. This idea of subjugating the people to capture their minds is really about control. So I want us to think about, is the education that we're offering the people that we work with, whether that be kindergarten or that be community college or even at the university, are we allowing for freedom or are we just subjugating the people to capture their minds? That got really deep really fast. So I'm just going to pause and say this is part of the discussion, right? Because this is how I felt. I felt like I was being subjugated and I was literally resisting in my body and saying, I don't want to do that. I didn't know why I was resisting, but I was resisting. You'll see here, this is a cartoon in Puck magazine. This is an anti-imperialist magazine. And you'll notice that, well, the actual title, the thing was School Begins. U.S. schooling as a neocolonial schooling apparatus is something to really consider. Like, how is schooling used to colonize people? The systemic and deliberate reinforcement of the colonial condition really comes from school. Are we seeing what we see here? We have, you'll notice at the very front, you have Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico. The one that's hidden is Cuba. Territories in the front row. Uncle Sam is saying, I'm going to teach you. You'll see all these dignified people in the back, you know, you'll notice them. They're already colonized. You'll see that there's, you know, a Chinese person at the door who they won't even let in. A Native American sitting with the book backwards in the corner. You'll see an African American or Black person at the window cleaning the windows. You'll see this, how imagine how this represents the actual like idea of colonialism. Oh, poor baby. That is a really good sound effect for the cartoon, by the way. I just you gotta just laugh that one up. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so let me then let Allyson grow up just a little bit from being born in Alameda. And here she is. She walks into a classroom in the United States, or America, what they call in the Philippines, they call it America. They rarely call it United States. So, okay, what about Allyson? Oh, I'm so excited to go to school, she says. I'm going to learn to become an American. That's what her family told her, right? I hope to be accepted. Yeah. I hope no one makes fun of my name. My last name is Tintiangco. That was a hard one. And then I can't wait to eat my baon, which is lunch, or the thing that you take with you to eat, right? I got made fun of. Some of you might have this experience where you open up your lunchbox and it smells like, oh my gosh, your family's kitchen. It smells like fish, or it smells like, you know, some kind of really stinky meat, you know, like, and then you have rice instead of bread. I'm like, I had it all, you know, and I was like so excited, I remember. And then, you know, like, got made fun of. What are you eating? You know, and I know that it doesn't happen as much now. I want to say, at least in San Francisco, it doesn't happen as much at the school that my daughter went to, but I felt like that really impacted me. It made me hate what I wanted, you know, what I ate. I ended up like getting lunch at school every day after that, you know, like, but I feel like it's really important to acknowledge, you know, like that feeling of being made fun of creates a hatred. Yeah. Okay, you'll notice here in the background, American Eagle. Yeah, you see it? With the red, white, and blue, kind of? Okay. Well, anyways, at some point I got plopped into a place called American High School. That is quite literally the name of the school. That is not a joke. Our school colors were red, white, and blue. Our mascot was the American Eagle. I know my cousin Glenda's on the call. We both went there, and it was like, yeah. Believe it or not. It was also a hippie school in some strange way. They didn't have walls. Yeah, that was a test school. It ended up only taking the walls out, but the curriculum was still the same. So I don't think that it was really that revolutionary, if you know what I mean. Okay, so none of the teachers look like me. There's only one paragraph on the Philippines in my history textbook. I hate school because school hates me. And then I want to emphasize this last one. I don't feel safe at school. Everyone thinks I'm dumb. And so this is truly me. I am not making things up. These are the things that, you know, like I physically thought in my head, and then I physically felt, you know, in my body. I landed at a place called Ohlone Community College. I just want to thank all of you like who are here from a community college, which I'm hoping, I think that's most of us are here from a community college. But I went to Ohlone Community College, not because I wanted to. I went there because my dad was a janitor at Kaiser, and I wanted to get on his health insurance plan, or my dad wanted me to get on his health insurance plan. And he said I needed to take 12 units at a community college so that he could continue to have me on his insurance plan. So I landed at this place called Ohlone Community College, not realizing that this place was going to change my life. This man right here, who unfortunately passed away in 2018, was my first ethnic studies professor. He completely changed my life. He taught some very scary concepts in that class, and I was uncomfortable at first. But then, me and my two friends who I mentioned as my ancestors, Eric and Ed, we started to change. Because this man right here not only taught us about like these heavy concepts like colonialism, like imperialism, he also saw us. Right. And I think that's really, really important. One day he was returning papers, and he was returning my paper. He's like, I need to talk to you. And I got really nervous because growing up, when someone said they needed to talk to you, usually you were in trouble. And so when he said, I need to talk to you, I went up to him right after class and said, okay, what did I do? And he's like, actually, you wrote a really beautiful paper. And then he handed me my paper, and it had an A on it. And I was completely like surprised, because I had not seen an A on a paper ever, at least my own paper, right? And then he said to me, he goes, I want to give you something. And he gave me this book called America's in the Heart. It was written by Carlos Balusan. And this book was the first book written by a Filipino in the United States. And I said to him, you've been ripping on America all semester, and you want me to read a book called America's in the Heart? He's like, no. I want you to read this book because I want you to actually understand your story. I said, what do you mean my story? And he's like, about Filipinos. And I actually didn't even know that he knew I was Pinay, that I was Filipino. And so he gives me that book, and I'm a little bit like, yeah, okay. And I wasn't really a reader, right? So it took me a very long time to read this book, and every page started to tell different stories I had no idea were happening to Filipinos, right? And so it's amazing. It was also the first book that I had read from cover to cover ever, and first adult book. And so I want to acknowledge, like that he really saw me, and that transformed my entire life. He told me that I had the potential to succeed, right? And I think sometimes we forget that even just those very small words, like I believe in you, like I really believe in you, like as a teacher, really allows young people to believe in themselves. We're so used to giving critique. We're not as good at giving feedback that is joyful, positive, affirmative. So I just want to acknowledge that he was able to say, you have the potential to succeed, galvanize me into my entire life. I would not be in front of all of you today. So that's me, Ohlone. At the end of my time at Ohlone, I want to acknowledge that, and then I came back, 25 years later to speak at their graduation. And then I was honored to be blessed by an Ohlone chief that really changed my life as well, like to be able to be acknowledged by someone whose land that we're on. So this was a sort of beautiful reminder of that. I just wanted to show you that I, had all these different faces. That's my dad trying to teach me how to bike with a cigarette in his mouth. At some point I was a cheerleader. I got kicked off the team every year for grades. That was fun. And then somehow in between all of that became a very vocal person with the megaphone. I can't believe they allowed me to have the megaphone when I ended up transferring to a place called UC Berkeley. And Ramon Quesada actually pretty much held my hand all the way through to transfer to a place called UC Berkeley. And then she grows up a little. Yeah. My background is San Francisco State, where I work. So I ended up at community college. I took my first ethnic studies with Ramon Quesada. Ethnic studies ends up saving my life because I was really going down a road that wasn't great. And then I decided to become a professor and continue to fight for ethnic studies. Okay, I know I'm really close to time, but can I keep going a little bit? Is that okay? Okay. So I'm going to talk about two. I'll talk about 2 and 3 fairly quickly because I think we want to have a little bit of time. So my present, dalawa. That's number 2, right? There's this book, and I want to acknowledge that at the bottom of the book, it says, and we are all wonderful. We're different, we're the same, we are all wonderful. But how come they didn't treat me like I'm wonderful? Yeah, and so this is a really interesting concept that in school, sometimes you will get these books, but then how you're actually treated doesn't always fit what the book says. How do we change learning to save lives instead of ruin them? And I think that that's really, really important to consider, because are we really allowing learning to be a place where young people can save their own lives? I don't mean to save lives like that we're missionary, right? But then instead of actually making it so difficult for them to learn and to love themselves. So how did or does ethnic studies save my life? I think that's a really important thing to process through. Well, first off, what is ethnic studies? Some of you may or may not know, but ethnic studies was started by the Black Student Union and the Third World Liberation Front. They initiated a strike in 1968 at San Francisco State University, which then, became part of the other places where the strike started to continue was UC Berkeley and even UCLA. And you'll see here that they fought fearlessly, and then ended up fighting and getting, first the Department of Ethnic Studies, which is now the College of Ethnic Studies. They really fought for access, for community, for relevance, or access, relevance, and community here, which we call the ARC. It really is about, ethnic studies is about providing safe academic spaces for all of us to learn the histories, cultures, and intellectual traditions of Native peoples and communities of color in the US in the first person. And also practice theories of resistance and liberation to eliminate racism and other forms of oppression. So you'll see that I highlighted words there. Like growing up, in my education, we didn't learn about people of color. We just learned about the white victors or the white winners, And so I just really want to acknowledge that's very, very important. But I also want to acknowledge that it's not just about learning about those people or people of color. We need to learn about them in the first person, but we also really want to make sure that we're doing that to eliminate racism in the bigger picture. These are some of the worldview concepts of ethnic studies. I'm just going to read the words. Self-determination and liberation, critical consciousness, community actualization, solidarity and unity, wellness and wholeness, hope, love, and respect. Now, I just want to, without looking at the words ethnic studies, all of those things should show up in education. I hope we agree. Like all of these ideas can really be infused in any class. It has to be infused in ethnic studies, but all of these can be used in any class. Some of the frameworks, and I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I want to acknowledge that some people think that ethnic studies is multicultural studies, but actually they're very different from each other because it's multicultural studies, which really is about inclusivity, diversity. You might have heard these words, right? It's about tolerating what's happening. It's about feeling acceptance or feeling belonging in a particular system that currently exists. Whereas ethnic studies really wants to change the system. It really centers the voices of racialized groups. Self-determination becomes really important. And then really moving toward this idea of anti-racism. The purpose of ethnic studies is different than multicultural studies. Multicultural studies is really focused on sustaining the current systems, allowing this entry point to, yes, have focus on people of color, but really not to change systems at all, just to get them to be part of a system. Whereas ethnic studies is about transforming systems, about radical freedom and liberation, okay? I'm just gonna this is sort of a simple version of this, so I hope that that's helpful because I know sometimes people get confused. I will also say that ethnic studies is about wellness. It's about the harmonizing of mind, body, emotion, and spirit. It's cultivated and sustained through healthy relationships that are responsive to the lived experiences and the historical and material conditions that shape them. Community responsive wellness strengthens, have a sacred link between self-actualization and community actualization. It's about us and about our communities. And ethnic studies really tries to ensure that we find wellness in our inner selves, interpersonal in terms of our relationships, and interconnectedness. So anytime you're doing curriculum on ethnic studies, I don't know if anybody out here is really interested in doing that. Like, I just want to make sure that you understand that there's a centering of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, that our goal is to eliminate racism, and then to really initiate this idea that the worldview of ethnic studies shows up in our classes. So I'm going to just move to this little cute thing here, because this is the actual book that I showed you. And I want us to think about, you could teach this book in a multicultural way and just say, yeah, all kids, we're different and we're the same, we're all wonderful, and keep it simple like that. But this book can also be taught in a very critical ethnic studies way, where you, for instance, I'll just share, you could look at this book and ask students, which Sesame Street character are you? Are these characters the same? Are they treated the same? Yeah. And like, even get into the conversation about race and racism through a text like this. Okay. So I'll acknowledge that. And you can even go further now, I'll share these slides with the organizers. And if they want to share this with you, you can really start to use a text like this and even go deeper and talk about what is difference, what is sameness, what are the systems in place that make it really difficult for people, to live in this society. You can even go deep and talk about racism. What I like to do with this book too is like have people write a new title, would you rewrite this book with a different ethnic studies take, right? And then how will these stories that you wrote or rewrote or write or rewrite change the world? Yeah. So this is a lesson that you all can build on or use and then build other lessons. So I will finish by this is very short. The last piece here, Tatlo, my future. So I put an encyclopedia up here, but I want to acknowledge that books made me feel like I didn't matter growing up. Yeah. So we need to write our own. And I'm very excited, because we really need to think about how we're going to leave our legacies for the next generation. One of them is this group here. I feel like that this Pinay and Pinoy Educational Partnerships is an organization that I helped develop over the years, just retired as their director. But leaving legacy doesn't always leaving books. It means also people. And so I want to acknowledge this beautiful group of people here. I'll also acknowledge that next month, actually, I think it's next week, a new book that's coming out that I helped edit is called The Encyclopedia of Filipinx American Studies. This encyclopedia is in a response to not being in encyclopedias. Growing up, not seeing ourselves in encyclopedias, and so we created one for ourselves. And so I'll just end by saying, so why did I need ethnic studies in kindergarten? I needed it because I needed to learn to love myself. I think that should be really important and to consider for all people. I won't show this video of my daughter, but my daughter got to have ethnic studies, like growing up, and she was able to really pursue what she wanted to pursue. And so I think that to me, she's a great example of what you can become when you're encouraged from the beginning. Oops, it wants to play, but I don't know how to move it forward. I don't know. I think we are really out of time, I'll let you look at my daughter as I speak here. And I feel like important to acknowledge that there's so much to talk about here, right? And if you're interested, you can reach out to me. You can also ask questions. I don't know how much longer I can stay on the chat or online. You all let me know and I can continue.
Hello, my daughter, Allyson. How old is your baby now? This is me, Dr. Nunley, your mom. Hey, love you. You're looking great.
Hi.
How old is she now? How old is she now?
She's 18.
I'm old. Wow. Okay.
Okay, it was just a combo. I wanted to show that, I didn't want to do something too polished. She has an amazing life. She's at Juilliard now in New York.
What? Wow.
Yeah, she's grown. I haven't seen her in a month and a half. It's freaking me out. I mean, I talk to her every day.
Wow.
I also stalk her, but
Thank you so much.
Hi, Dr. Nunley.
Hey, Dr. Allyson.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. This was so beautiful. Yes, this was just so beautiful. And Yeah, yeah, I just love it, love it, love it. And I want to say what's very interesting
Thank you so much. Bye.
about ECE, early childhood education, we say that identity is very important, and this is where we teach them to have an identity, but we do a lousy job. Even in our core courses, the one course that would try to touch on things, the diversity course, diversity, is not even a requirement. So we still haven't learned how to infuse it, and it's scary to a lot of people. So thank you, thank you. You just proved why it's important. So thank you, love you.
Dr. Nelly saw me pregnant, so it's kind of funny, like that she's like,
Yeah,
"How
I
do
know,
you
because
know?"
I'm like, what the heck? Yeah, okay, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Allyson. So
Thank
we
you.
were hoping, I know we're at time and people have other things to go to, but if you want to stay on for a few minutes and throw a question in the chat, Allyson, do you have time for that?
Yeah, I can stay on for a little bit. I can stay on for a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sorry that we went so late. The timing was a little funny.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Allyson. I have to go to the next workshop, but this was amazing as usual. So
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Allyson, and also to want to thank Dr. Nanley. She's the one who told us about Teach the Bay. Thank you so much, Dr. Nanley.
Yeah, see, Dr. Allyson, guess what I do? I teach a course, Child Growth and Development, and then I match the students up with different people who look just like them. So all my Filipinas, so cool. I said, yeah, and so then they see it's real. In order to believe it, I have to see it. And then look at you looking all gorgeous and all of that. So, and yeah, so thank you.
Okay. So folks can unmute themselves, or you could throw a question in the chat. I know that there was one question. I don't know if Michael's still here. I don't see Michael.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Michael.
You are. Okay, sorry.
Hi, Michael. It is what it sounds like. It's practices, policies, critical thinking that is against racism. So the goal is to really provide content, but then also the methods in which we teach to move away from being racist. I try to make it simple. I hope that that's okay. And then there are some really beautiful things written by Danny Solorzano that also have pillars of anti-racism or critical race theory that really allow us to critique the ways we understand oppression. Right. So and there's so many ways I probably can go deeper into this, but I will say that, I think important. Oh yeah, Herika wrote in the chat, Danny Solorzano. So I would encourage you to read his work.
So there's
Thank you
for this beautiful message and everything. I went to San Francisco State, took ethnic studies. My major was liberal studies with an emphasis in ethnic studies. And the first time I ever heard about, ethnic studies and really deep in school was my 11th grade teacher. So that was really, it just brought up something when you talked about your college experience. Thank you.
Desiree, thank you. Desiree, where are you now?
I am a family liaison for San Francisco Unified School District here at John Muir Elementary School.
Oh, nice.
And then I got my master's at San Francisco State too, equity and social justice in education.
Anytime, Desiree, reach out. I'm willing to.
Yes, I will email you. Yeah. If you can put your email maybe in the
chat. Yeah, I'll have them send it out in the slide.
Thank you so much. Yes, I would love to partner or do something because it's really, I try to teach all the kids here too about it, especially having an immigrant father from Haiti. Culture is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandria, you are at Ohlone.
I am, yes, but I'm attending classes at CCSF, and I've worked at CCSF before too. So hi, Dr. Nedley. I'm actually in her Wednesday night classes.
Oh, very cool.
It was really touching to hear your story, and I'm very excited to share. I was typing in our department chat, like, y'all need to join this right now. So yeah, I'm glad. Thank you for sharing your email and
Yeah, reach out to me. Reach out. I do have a relationship with Aloni still, mentoring some of the people who work there. So please let me know, if you need any support.
Of course. And thank you again, Dr. Nunley, and everyone who shared out the emails for this. I really love to hear this. So thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
So I think there's definitely some questions about how people can access your information and stay connected to you. So I know one of the things we're going to post the recording of this session on our website, so you'll have access to that. And then we can share out the slides from today's event. And then any other ways that folks can stay connected to you and the work you're doing?
They can reach out at any point, like I have a lot of different projects going on. So if there's a place to connect, I would love to help out. Yeah, what I'll do is put the deck for those people who are left here, and then Erika, if you can grab it and then put it where you need to put it, I guess. And my contact info is on the deck as well.
Okay, yeah, we can share that with people who registered.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you all. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support. Hey, Daryl, I see Daryl. Daryl works with us at Community Responsive Education.
Allyson, if you could do me a favor, and Heather, can you, the two of you need to connect, because Heather's like our student chancellor, and yeah, y'all just need to connect, okay?
Heather, you can literally just message me, and then I'll give you my calendar. And if you want to sit down and talk, I'm down. Yeah. I want to support you as much as possible. I don't know how much longer you're going to be at CCSF, but I want to be able to support you there while you're there. Maybe you'll try somewhere I know or something too.
I actually just graduated last semester, but I started in 2001, and I confronted a lot of barriers. And I decided to continue at City College, although I graduated, just because of the issues that exist.
Nice. I'm glad you graduated, and I'm glad you're continuing. Please let me know what I can do. Yeah, I won't know. You'll have to just kind of say, hey, this is what we need, and I'll come through.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks, Dr. Nunley.
Okay. So with that, I guess we can go ahead and close our session. Thank you, Dr. Tintiangco-Cubales, for being here with us. And it's incredible to start the conference with you and your voice and your journey. So much love and gratitude to you for keeping us inspired in this work.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Take care, everyone. Hope to see you. There's registration still open. If you're interested in registering for workshops this afternoon, we have some panels in the evening and workshops. And then we have all day programming tomorrow and an amazing plenary session at noon with Dr. Farima Pour-Cochet, who will be talking about furthering this conversation about how we can be healing centered in our work with youth, families, and in our work with other educators. So hope to see you there tomorrow, and take good care, everyone.
Thank you.
Adios.
Adios, Erika. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Bye. I'm going to head to my next meeting, but thank you so much for everything. Okay. I hope to connect with you soon. Yeah.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.